What's up? I'm Cousin Marcus, and welcome to Old Head Comics Episode 1. Now, what is Old Head Comics? To explain that, first, I want to give a shout out to Dave at Comic Book Hero. He's a great writer, editor, and content creator. One of my main inspirations for doing comic book content. He has a podcast called Our Marvelous Year, where he and a few of his friends literally just read every single Marvel comic, starting from the very beginning. So I'm just copying that idea. So between week by week reviews that I plan to do starting in January, creator bibliography reviews and lists, I want to do Old Head Comics, where I go all the way back to the near genesis of Marvel Comics and some DC and read some really old comics. So Old Head Comics Episode 1 is going to be me, Cousin Marcus, recapping and reviewing the first 5 issues of Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. Let's get into it. These 5 issues are all written by Stan Lee and completely illustrated by Jack Kirby. RIP to both of these legends. So the first thing I want to talk about is how Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were visionaries when it comes to their panel and story structuring. For example, you know the trope where you start in the middle of a story and then you got to go back to add more necessary context and show how you got to that moment. Stan and Jack used this trick numerous times in the first 5 issues to show the origins of the Four and select villains that they encounter. Maybe that's just my uninformed thinking, believing that this was more of a modern trope, but I was pleasantly surprised to see it implemented so well. Jack Kirby's art is another factor I really appreciate. Yeah, it's from the 60s, so it's like inherently dated, but he really like expertly communicates all the necessary details in every panel. His facial expressions are clear and direct, and I like when the coloring gets gritty and dark. This panel shows the terror of the citizens seeing the thing in his raw, craggly form while clouding them in shadow. And I love this panel of the military going to apprehend the Four. One of my personal favorites is like the panel by panel morphing of Ben Grimm from his craggly form back to human and vice versa. I have a very cinematic mind, so art that speaks to me the most is art that kind of feels like storyboard into a movie, and Kirby illustrates numerous panels that had that quality to them. I talked about origins earlier, and issue 1 has a whopper regarding the Four's origin. Modern Fantastic Four comics always put Reed to blame for Ben's conditions because it was Reed's idea for them to go to space. Issue 1 shows Ben aggressively against flying them to space, and then Susan uses reverse psychology to convince Ben to fly. So Sue had a major part in causing Ben's condition this entire time. This was like a pipe bomb to me because I'd never seen this reference ever in any Fantastic Four comics that I read. Mark Waid, Jonathan Hickman, like the Matt Fraction run, none of these. And it's like, it's crazy. It's also major incel fuel, but I'm sure Stan and Jack didn't have that in mind. But like, man, what a revelation. The antagonist of issue 1 is the Mole Man, and of course his debut appearance. He uses a giant monster to destroy atomic plants so that he can destroy a world that shunned him for his unfortunate appearance. This won't be the first time that the word atomic is used, because you got to remember it's only about 15 years after the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So nuclear power and the threat of nuclear power was still a very present aspect of American culture. Anyway, Mole Man controls an army of monsters from an underground kingdom, and he's surprisingly athletic for his schlubby appearance. I think Mole Man can be tweaked to be a really compelling villain for a good Fantastic Four movie. He has a clear parallel to Ben Grimm, who's ostracized to a degree because of his looks as well, and he's a counter to Reed, Sue, and Johnny, given that they're all attractive, normal looking, and in the case of Sue and Johnny, they come from money. Mole Man's control or his relationship with these monsters from the underground can be a warped way of him being a voice for the voiceless and embracing the little people. There's a quality story there with Mole Man, but enough about the movie shit. Issue 2 sees the Four randomly doing criminal shit for like seemingly no reason. Ben destroys an offshore oil tower, Sue steals a precious diamond, Johnny destroys a newly constructed statue, and Reed shuts off all the power to New York City. The entire nation is hunting the Four, and they're happy about it? Why would they be? because they're not really the Four. They're motherfucking Skrulls. That's right. Issue 2 is the Marvel Comics debut of the Skrulls, the shape-shifting alien race that continue to be relevant in Marvel Comics and Marvel TV to this day. This is crazy. So the real Four try to figure out what's going on, and a few things kind of start popping out to me as I'm reading. One, Ben Grimm has a violent outburst nearly every issue. Is either at his own existential dread or Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, just fucking with him. At some point in every single issue, Reed is wrapped around him trying to calm him down. Johnny is flamed on and flying around, and Susan is trying not to get killed. Two, they don't get their traditional blue Fantastic Four costumes until issue 3. So it's really awkward seeing them do super heroic shit in the first 2 issues in like a tuxedo, a sweater vest, and a dress. They look crazy. Third, Reed is smoking a fucking pipe. I'm not used to seeing like characters in Marvel Comics smoke at all. So seeing the leader of a team smoke and he's smoking a pipe is like really a big time warp for me. But let's keep it pushing. The Four get themselves up to the military only to escape like minutes after, which is hilarious. Then a bunch of shit happens, and that leads me to another revelation. These issues are dense as hell. Issue 1 is kind of standard because they got to use some real estate going over the origin of the Four, but issues 2 through 5 have a crazy amount of story in them. With a writer experience in decompression, you could stretch every one of these issues out to like a 5 or 6 issue trade in modern times. Like, take this issue. The Skrulls impersonate the Four get themselves up to the military, then they escape. They concoct a plan to draw out the Skrull Four, they fight the Skrull Four, take the Skrull spaceship up to the Skrull mothership, convince the Elder Skrulls that the Four is too powerful for them to try to invade Earth, go back to Earth, fight the Skrulls again, then Reed hypnotizes them into being docile cows for the rest of their time on Earth. Seeing them become cows is like a fantastic, no pun intended, Easter egg to the future Kree-Skrull War. But yeah, like they pack in a crazy amount of story into every issue. In issue 3, the Four go to a magic show where the Miracle Man, not that Miracle Man, performs amazing feats like making himself into a giant and proving that he's stronger than the Thing. Reed basically wheels Miracle Man's villainy into existence by saying, what if he wanted to be evil? Sure enough, he wants to be evil, so he uses his magical abilities to turn an inanimate dinosaur statue into a real dinosaur, then steal an atomic tank. Ben and Johnny get in another fight, and Johnny basically goes AWOL on the team. Susan tracks the Miracle Man down, then shoots this annoying ass flare into the air. When they shoot it in the air, a big ass Four goes in the air, and they all know to converge on that location. She shoots the flare, calling for backup. Johnny appears and blinds the Miracle Man with his flame and Reed explains that the Miracle Man isn't magical, he's just a hypnotist who made them imagine that he was actually doing these things, which that makes no sense. And this is like the third time that hypnotism is a plot point in this volume. It's funny, I don't know what the hell was going on in the 60s, but probably just drugs. Miracle Man is subdued, and Reed gives Johnny his props on taking him down. But Ben is so petty and jealous that he doesn't even want to give Johnny credit for it. Johnny is so fed up at him and Ben's perpetual just nagging each other and fucking with each other and going back and forth that Johnny quits the team. I definitely wasn't expecting that. Reed and Sue end the issue hoping that Johnny doesn't turn evil. It's like two things. One, Reed is always thinking the worst. Like anything that happens, he's like, what if it was evil? Just crazy. What if you were evil? If you were evil, we'll get like the best villain ever. Also, are there any stories where Johnny is like it gotta be stories out there where Johnny is evil or mind wiped or something like that and he becomes a primary antagonist? Drop me a comment if you know of any, because I would like to read them. Those sound like they'll be interesting. Issue 4 carries directly over from issue 3 with Reed, Sue, and Ben searching for Johnny Storm, and they're completely unhinged while they search for him. Sue can't find him and scares some diner patron shitless by drinking from a glass while she's in her invisible form. Reed just grabs random dudes off the streets and asks him, have you seen Johnny? Have you seen Johnny? Ben actually finds Johnny at a car garage with his friends, and Ben immediately goes apeshit, just bursting through the doors, threatening to kill Johnny with a fucking car. Also, Since they went into space to go to the Skrull warship, Ben has randomly been transforming back to his human form and then back to his rock form. So he transforms while he's in front of Johnny into his human form. Johnny takes advantage and flies away. Johnny goes to hide out in a really shady hotel in a really bad part of town, and he relaxes by reading a comic book of the Submariner. This is one of the multiple times where one of the four will read a comic book that was actually being punished at the time, like Journey of Mystery or Incredible Hulk. I can't call this breaking the fourth wall, but comics existing inside of the comics has to just like break the entire time-space continuum, right? Like it's over with. Anyway, one of the dudes in the shady hotel sees Johnny reading the Submariner comic, and he's like, "Hey, get a load of this old guy over here." Random old dude. They messing with the old dude enough, and the old dude beats everybody's ass, then starts talking about how he can't remember anything about his life. So a mob of stinky dudes about to attack the old man. Johnny protects him, and he's like, "Oh, well, y'all think he's somebody else." He uses his flame to shave the man's face, revealing him to be Namor the fucking Submariner. Business has just picked up. Johnny tests to see if this is true by just dropping him in the ocean. He had a plan though. He said he'll either become the true Namor, or if he doesn't, I'll just fly down and get him. Which good superhero in Johnny. Don't let the man drown. Of course, this is the true Namor. He's reinvigorated by the ocean and he gets all his memories back. He goes back to his underwater kingdom, not yet called Atlantis, and discovers that it's been completely destroyed. Instantly reminded me of a similar moment in Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers, best comic book run ever. Namor declares war on the surface world. We get a very cinematic panel of Namor emerging from the sea to threaten Johnny Storm. Johnny is scared shitless, so he lets off that annoying ass flare, drawing the other three to him. Namor goes back in the ocean and unleashes the Kraken. Alright, I'm just playing. He uses a seahorn to summon Giganto, a gigantic whale that threatens to destroy the city. And one of the two most ridiculous things to happen in this volume, Ben he does this in like no time either. Ben gets a nuclear bomb, straps it to himself, goes inside of the whale like Jonah from the Bible, fights a crazy creature that Giganto has eaten. Then the bomb blows up, killing the whale without like the usual effects of a nuclear explosion, like, you know, mass human casualties and radioactive fallout and, you know, that type of shit. None of that. It just blows up to kill the whale, and Ben survives too somehow. It's ridiculous, but I love comic books. Sue steals the seahorn so Namor can't summon any other creatures. When Namor grabs her, he realizes that she's the most beautiful woman he's ever laid eyes on, and he wants her to be his wife. Sue initially agrees so that he'll spare humankind, but the fact that she even hesitated angers Namor to no end, and I fucking love this Namor characterization is carried over for 70 years. Like he's just arrogant to the nth degree. Like the fact that she even had a thought about being his wife just made him absolutely furious. Like I love this fucking shithead character. Anyway, Namor completely wrecks the four until Torch creates a tornado that sweeps Namor and Giganto back into the destroyed kingdom that will soon be named Atlantis. That was a really underwhelming way to get rid of such a powerful villain like Namor, but I love his characterization and the immediate threat he poses to the surface world. The underwhelming ending makes me think about a potential what if book though. What if Susan would have just given in to her physical attraction of Namor and became his wife? This is issue 4 of Fantastic Four. What if it would have just become Fantastic 3 and Namor and Susan is now the queen of the kingdom that will soon be called Atlantis? Like, how soft would Namor get in the company of a genuinely nice person like Susan? On the other end, how brutal would Susan get being married to an inherent elitist like Namor? I can only imagine. All right, now listen to what I'm about to tell you right now. The very first page of issue 5 is the introduction of Dr. fucking Doom. Arguably the greatest comic book villain to ever be created. No mystery, no build up, just bam, there he is. playing with Fantastic Four chess pieces. I feel like this panel has definitely been recreated on variant covers, but I can't say for sure. You know, when you drop a comment if you know any of this, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Johnny is reading an Incredible Hulk comic, again breaking the space-time continuum, and compares Hulk to the Thing, which is hilarious considering how many fights Hulk and Thing will have throughout Marvel history. And also, goddamn, Johnny, like you just left the group because Thing wouldn't give you any props. Thing is perpetually like one wrong word away from trying to kill you, and you just can't resist being a dickhead. Like, my God. The lights go out. Doom wraps the entire Baxter building up in a big ass net. And now that I say that to myself, I don't even think this building was being called the Baxter building yet. I could be wrong, but I don't think they call it the Baxter building. It's just where they live. Anyway, Doom wraps the entire Baxter building in a big ass net, then he reveals himself. We get the original origin of Dr. Doom, which is Doom went to college with Reed, and despite his own scientific brilliance, he had a mysterious fascination with the dark arts and trying to contact the netherworld. A botched experiment burnt his face up. He went overseas to find sorcery secrets, and now he's back. There's two things I really love about this exchange in particular. One is the characterization of Doom. You don't ask Doom shit. Like the entire universe is on a need to know basis when it comes to Doom and what the fuck he doing. You damn peasant. And two, Doom doesn't answer the questions of why he wants to contact another plane of existence. Now, 70 years of stories since then has informed us that Doom is trying to get his mother's soul from hell. I don't know what writers established this, and it probably wasn't Standard Jack, but it's a great success story that an engaging story was behind Doom's obsession with black magic. That mystery box style of writing where you create a mystery and hope later on you can fill it with something engaging is really dangerous, but it paid off in huge dividends with Doom's backstory. So Doom demands that Susan becomes his hostage, and the fellas also come to his mountain lair to hear his potential plan. There's no mention of Latveria yet. He keeps them docile with the threat of a lion, which would be a real threat if they were like Punisher or somebody like that, but like Thing could fucking eat that lion. So, but whatever. Doom's mission is that he wants to send the three, because Susan is staying with him, in the past with a time machine so that he can steal the treasure of Blackbeard the pirate. Absurd. Also, this is the debut of Dr. Doom's time platform. So, literally, the first time we see him, he's already the shit. He's already made a time machine. Like, he's already pretty advanced. That brings me to another observation / question. When does Reed become the smartest dude in the universe? Like here it says in this unofficial volume, it's established that he's a scientist and he's smart, but I'm wondering when the shift happens that makes him go from being more of a traditional superhero to his primary function in the Marvel universe being the genius of all geniuses. Like it's even more pronounced in modern comics because you can almost forget that Reed has powers. Like he doesn't really do the stretching and shit like that because really his superpower is his brain. And in this volume of stories, he does some crazy, wacky, stretchy shit in like every issue. And it's not just that he's stretchy, it's like he's ridiculously strong as well. Like he just grabs a missile out of the sky and tosses it in the ocean. And he's strong enough to like trip up a Godzilla type monster. It's interesting. It's as I do this read, it's gonna be interesting to see like when his mastery of just science in general becomes more pronounced. Anyway, they agree to do this wacky ass job for Doom, and he transports them to pirate times. Things scares off some randos so they can get appropriately dressed for the times. They go to hang out in a bar and they get drugged by pirates who plan to forcibly recruit them to their crew. Fellas wake up, they immediately revolt against this, let's be frank here, this slavery attempt until the ship they're on is attacked by Blackbeard's ship. This is another moment where I thought, God damn, like they stuffing a lot of story into every issue. Reed makes himself a bridge so that the three and the pirates can go fight Blackbeard's group and they defeat them. And afterwards, Thing is hailed as the almighty Blackbeard. Reed believes they created some type of weird paradox where Ben is actually Blackbeard. And that's a fun idea, but it falls apart because pirates already thought there was a Blackbeard and we never actually see a Blackbeard. So like, where was he at? Did he like he has to exist in some type? I don't know, but they get the quote unquote Blackbeard's treasure, and Reed just plans to straight up finesse Doom by not giving them any of the jewels and gold inside, and instead just filling it up with chains. Ben doesn't even want to go back to the past because he's a cool leader here, and in his own time, he's looked at like a disgusting monster, which I fully understand. Like, I feel that. He takes shit way too far though, and has his crew try to subdue Johnny and Reed so they can take him back to the future. And then a fucking twister just comes out of nowhere and wrecks the ship. Reed saves Johnny from drowning, and after that, it's a great moment where Ben like immediately apologizes for losing his head and getting too wrapped up into being somebody in this time, which is still understandable. Doom beams them back to the present. They got the treasure chest. He looks in the treasure chest. He's irate when they don't have the treasure. He explains to them that the jewels were enchanted by Merlin and would have made him an even more powerful sorcerer. Ben says, "The hell with this," and bashes Doom's head in, but it's not Doom. It's a fucking Doom bot. Doom is already great. The real Doom was watching this the entire time, starts extracting oxygen from the room to kill him. Jesus Christ. Susan escapes and frees the fella. She did that way too easy for Doom to be as smart as he is, but you know. Johnny tries to create enough fire that'll just like smoke Doom out of this castle that he in, but Doom has a jetpack and he flies away, never to be seen again. Psych! And that's the end of this first unofficial volume of Fantastic Four. And I really love reading the super old shit and finding so much to like and think about. Their family dynamic is appropriately chaotic. There's definitely some unintentional comedy, but not so much that it makes it a joke. Every issue is dense in hell, and do we even need to talk about historical significance? We get the debuts of not just the Fantastic Four, but Mole Man, the Skrulls, Namor, and Dr. fucking Doom. All are still crazy relevant, not just to the Fantastic Four franchise, but Marvel in general, and they're all beginning to transcend comics. I had to come up with a rating system for reviews, so this is how I'm going to do it. 5 stars is the absolute cream of the crop. You're doing yourself a disservice as a comic fan by not reading this and owning it. 4 stars is you should absolutely read it and probably own it. 3 stars is give it a read if you want to, probably only own it if you're a completionist. 2 stars is only read it if you're a completionist. 1 star is it's not worth a read at all. So for this first unofficial volume of Fantastic Four, it gets the Cousin Marcus grade of 4 stars. Drop a like, subscribe, comment, let me know how you feel about the first volume of Old Head Comics, and Cousin Marcus, I'll holla at y'all.